example, how many times are Muslims accused of not integrating, not taking part in the social democracy of this country? Well, there's no finer way of showing how well you're integrated than getting up and going out to vote. Now, unlike Yasmin, there's a lot of politicians out there that don't want the Muslim community to be engaged politically. They don't want you to become active in politics. It's much easier for politicians to have a quiet, pacified, subdued constituency, somebody that's not going to rock the boat or cause too many problems. So, although they accuse us of one hand of not integrating, when we do take part in the British process, they don't like it. Another example that I can think of, I don't know how many of you have heard of what's been going on in a Crown Court in West London, in Isleworth Crown Court, under a Judge Dennis. He has been trying a lot of young people who have been charged with violent disorder following the Gaza demonstrations of more than a year ago. Now, this is very, very important. One of the things that being British is about is protesting and getting involved in demonstrations and getting involved in rallies. And we should not be deterred from doing this. We should not be silent. And what has happened? People's pictures have been taken at these demonstrations, and then homes have been raided. Hundreds of homes have been raided in dawn swoops, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, entire families handcuffed, treated like terrorists, and 77 young people, most of them under the age of 79, have been charged with violent disorder. Of those 79, 77 are Muslim. And they were advised, keep your head down, just plead guilty, and it'll wash over, there'll be a light sentence, there won't even be, you'll be fine. Many of these kids had been on their first ever demonstration. And from these duty solicitors and family solicitors, they pleaded guilty. And it was like Bradford all over again. Who remembers Bradford? Where young kids were sent down for 3, 4 and 5 years. And that is what has been happening in West London. Well, finally, people have got very angry about it. They've got organised. And when we get organised, we can make things happen. And people have started pleading not guilty. And it turns out that the CCTV footage the police have got have shown far from these young people causing the aggravation. It's the psychos in uniform that have been causing the aggravation. There was a sister who pleaded not guilty 3 days ago, and she was charged with violent disorder, and the prosecution stood up and said she was in the Starbucks cafe that had been trashed by rioters, and she was in there. And the CCTV footage showed she was in there for 6 seconds, because that's how long it took her to walk in, see if her friend, who she'd lost in the crowd, was there. She wasn't, and she walked out. And in those 6 seconds, she ends up being arrested and charged with violent disorder. Now, if she'd followed the advice of the duty solicitor, who didn't even bother to look at the video footage, she would have been sent to prison for 3, 4 years. There's one sister that has been sent down, and she is appealing. The whole of the media are now starting to look at this Judge Dennis and watch his performance. I went one more, and I went and looked into his background. He's been a judge for barely 10 months, and in December he sat on a case of a man who was driving his car, involved in a road accident with a motorcyclist. The motorcyclist turned out to be an off-duty policeman, went under the car and was killed. The driver got out, saw the dead man, the off-duty policeman, and ran from the scene of the crime. He went before Judge Dennis and he was given a community service order. A cop killer given a community service order and a suspended sentence. Because in mitigation, the judge was told this man suffers from panic attacks, something that emerged during his service with the Israeli Defense Forces. So there we have one of the worst types of Zionists sitting in judgment of our people. We've got to stop this. We've got to stop being victims. We've got to stop sitting back and let other people act for us. We've got to start taking charge. And for those of you who've never voted before, now is the time to take charge and on May the 6th, vote